the home of the common Joe and the common Sally in the know, even more so than all those media talking heads.
Let me preface this podcast by saying I used to be in favor of the players being able to, set out bowl games and getting paid and being able to transfer whenever they wanted to because of what the coaches do and how they just up and leave. But now that the players are getting paid, they shouldn't be setting out. And there's some extenuating circumstances and some epiphanies that have suddenly came to me about these players and the NCAA that I think that we need to talk about. So let's talk about it. Well, here we go again. It's another episode of the Outlaw College Football. And here they come riding in once again. It's the Outlaw Posse. Now, in effect, and today's four horsemen shout-outs go to Joseph McKelvey, C. Joe 6, Enough is Enough, and Mad Dog Mike are here to help us with this college football invasion. And if you want your badge and get deputized and get random four horsemen shout out as well as possibly be the comment of the day, just hit that little join button next to the subscribe button. It's now $2.99 a month. That's only 75 cents a week. That's just a half a bottle of water for the Outlaw. You can also support the show for free by doing the big four. Like, share, comment, and subscribe to this channel. All those are free. And sharing is caring. Share the channel out. I can also be reached on Twitter, a.k.a. X, maybe a.k.a. The Bowels of Pluto next. I don't know what they're going to call it from week to week. But I can be reached on there at OCF Productions. Now, getting right to it here, I really hate this subject because I know we're going to get some people in here that's going to be crying about and wetting their diapers and saying you ain't got a right to rail on the players for just bettering themselves and blah, 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 and all that other good shit they've been parroted and coached up into saying. But I used to be a proponent of that. I used to be a supporter of that thought process until they started getting paid. All right? So, first of all, the bowl sit-outs, especially with Florida State and whatnot, that was just completely off the charts as far as, to me, just being cowardly and not being able to support your brothers in their final battle and that being the bowl game. If you're getting paid NIL money because of the fame that your university has brought you, then you should absolutely have to play the entire season. And if you lay down, the NFL people should take note of that and punish you and how they draft you and such, in my opinion. Now, let's get to the topic at hand here. More so, what I want to talk about is the constant transfers. These players, they want to, be able to better themselves and get better deals and whatnot. And everybody defends them by saying, if you had a job and you had a better offer, you'd go too. That is true, but these players want to compare themselves to the coaches. So let's do that. If the coaches can up and leave whenever they want to, then the players should be able to too, right? Right. But it's not as cut and dry as that. You got to take the other little intricacies with it, Mr. Football Player and parents of football player that get in their ear and corrupt their asses. Coaches have to sign contracts. Coaches have to pay buyouts to leave the university. Do the players have to do that? Even back in the day when they could transfer after or set out 1 year and transfer, they still didn't have to pay a buyout. So, people say, well, they come here to play for that coach. I mean, it's really naive to think that players come for the school itself and the education, and that is naive. But it's also pretty short-sighted to say that you just come and play for the coach. The fans are the ones that's really suffering all this. And let me tell y'all something, and it ain't happened yet, and it probably won't happen for another 20 or 30 years, maybe not even then, but it could. The fans are the ones that support these programs. Without the fans and the alumni and people buying tickets and buying the jerseys and buying your NIL or whatever it is product that you're selling, without the fans, y'all don't have jack shit. So instead of just thinking about, oh, well, that's the coach I want to play for, or even the university I want to play for, you should think about the fans that supported you and got you here. The NIL deals you would never get without being made famous, like I said before, by this university that is supported by the fans. Now let's talk specifically about what made me go on this tangent, that being Caleb Downs and Kadyn Proctor, who just entered the transfer portal, two pretty important parts for the University of Alabama. Yeah, this is my team, but this could happen easily to anybody's team. So those of y'all coming here and being hypocritical and taking glee and joyful, spastic celebrations in Alabama losing these players, just remember that this exact thing could happen to you when your coach steps down. So Kadyn Proctor and Caleb Downs, to me, if they're listening to this, I think it was a cowardly move. What y'all did in, just leaving because Nick Saban left. If that's your excuse, then it's a pretty cowardly one, as I explained earlier in this podcast. And people are going to be like, well, what if they decide to come back? Then you're going to feel bad. No, I'm not, because they should never enter the transfer portal to begin with. I mean, show some loyalty and gratitude to these universities and these fans. Not to saying show gratitude to the coach that left or retired. Show some gratitude to the fans and the university that made you famous and made you a big enough name that you can get these NIL deals. And the only thing to curb this in the future, I think, as I've talked about this ad nauseum on other podcasts and other live streams, is we're going to have to make them sign contracts, just like I mentioned earlier, just like the NFL. If them and their parents and their corrupt-ass relatives want to get paid and make adult money and pride themselves on being future NFL players one day and part of that organization as an employee, well, then they need to be trained as such and know the responsibilities and know that they can't just up and leave on a commitment. So if you go to the NFL and you sign a contract, you can't just up and leave and go to another team. Just like a coach can't up and leave and go to another team because he has a buyout. You need to have the contracts for these players, and if they want to leave, they should have to pay a buyout. If you want to leave and have the same opportunity as these head coaches who've been in the football business for quite some time and probably have earned that right to be able to do that, then you're going to have to adhere to some responsibilities and not just be able to leave scot-free. If you want to be treated like these coaches and have the same opportunities, then you should have to adhere to the stuff that they have to when they leave a commitment or a contract. You should have to pay that buyout. And another entity that's not remiss from all this is the NCAA. The NCAA needs to be held accountable for this as well, because they've allowed this shit to spiral out of control and done absolutely nothing. Just come in and periodically punish people when they see fit, just to make a little money for themselves. I heard people say the NCAA is they're not going to budge on the whole contract for player for contract deals. Well, it don't really matter what they're going to adhere to, because if NCAA doesn't adhere to it, then what the blue bloods of this sport and even basketball all need to do is get together and just secede from the NCAA if they're not going to do something to help these universities, because the NCAA is supposed to be about helping the universities and their alumni and their fans. And that's all I got to say about that. If you don't mind, there's a little heart down here with a little money dollar sign in the middle. If you want to hit that and make a one-time donation to the program, throw a few dollars in the coffers, that'd be great. Also, like, share, comment, and subscribe. The big fours I said earlier, they're free. And you can join the Outlaw Posse as well for $2.99 a month, 75 cents a week. That's just a half a bottle of water for the Outlaw. You'll get your badge, you'll get deputized, and you'll be one of the random Four Horsemen shout-outs, as well as possibly the comment of the day. KMCA to all the other teams. Class is now officially dismissed.